what I'll do is introduce you. Sean Crater is my Director of Public Works. I'm Ed Fairweather, the town supervisor here in Big Flats. I've been involved with the town for 32 years. Between the planning board, I've been deputy for 16, supervisor for 8. They're trying to talk me into 4 more, and I don't know. Hard decision here coming up. But I'm a numbers person. I come from the automotive aftermarket. I was a VP with a company, and numbers are what I look at. But I also look at the strength of my people and helping me in coming through, and I've got a phenomenal crew. We looked at a couple of numbers. 2 of them, one was highways. We were putting about 350 to 375,000 a year in patching roads. We now spend less than 20,000. The other number that really popped out in looking at it was maintenance. At that time, we were spending almost $400,000 a year maintaining equipment. This year, our budget is, I just had it here, $57,493. And that includes tires, oil changes, and other miscellaneous items out here. So what we felt we needed to do was to upgrade our equipment, whether that meant bonding, leasing, financing, even just a simple rental base. So
Ed, could you tell me how many miles of road, how many trucks, just, those sort of numbers?
Yeah, we have seven 10-wheel dump trucks. We have 3 1-ton dump trucks. We have 5 3/4-ton dump trucks, or not dump trucks, but 3/4-ton pickup trucks. That's for the 3 supervisors and the 2 water operators. We also run a water department plus a highway department. Water is kept separate from highway. It's a special district, so the money that's generated in water does not go over to highway. So what Ed's talking about, the numbers he's using, is solely from highway funds.
And miles of road?
We have 75 miles of road.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We also maintain a grader, and I'll have Sean go into that in a minute, and a mini excavator, a regular excavator, and 2 loaders here as part of our equipment. So what we did is we did an extensive, and I apologize, I tried to find the spreadsheets and I cannot find them. My old computer crashed on me, and I've lost a lot of information, unfortunately. Hopefully the county can get it back for me. But anyway, what we started to do, and the first thing we went to was to lease equipment. Chemung County, with Andy Avery, at that time was working with my highway department as a commissioner, and we've since changed and went with Sean. But they were leasing equipment from Enterprise. So we contacted Enterprise and started looking at how do we flip these vehicles? How do we make it so that we're spending less money on it, less downtime, but we didn't have the cash to go out and just buy them. So we started off with a program with Aaron from Enterprise, and we have already flipped 4 vehicles now. We're on our next 2, and it's become a very, very good program for us. We've been able to, we use what they call their lease equity program. And as such, their purchasing power through Ford, I mean, we mainly buy Fords, has been excellent. You can lease about anything you want from them. We lease white trucks, basic, but we buy or lease the XLT trucks. The difference between XL and XLT trucks are very small. Unless it's being utilized as a 4-door type of transport pickup, they would be XLs. For the supervisors, we get the XLTs. We put seat covers on them, floor mats, and so on. And because of the value, for what you lease extra with that, it comes down to a better equity base at your end. To give you an idea, we have 2 trucks that we just ordered from them to lease for next year. One is for our highway supervisor, and the other one is for our park supervisor. Those are F-250s. Both of them will have plows on them, and they're XLTs. By doing it, they both had a lease on it. And we had a 4-year lease, but we're into the 3rd year. But those trucks right now will bring us at a minimum of $10,000 worth of equity. And as such, what we do is we float that equity back into the leases on these vehicles. By doing that, I'll give you an example. I have a Ford Explorer that I lease through Enterprise. And as such, we took and did a 3-year jump on that earlier. My lease went from $590 something,
Yep.
and it will be down to like $297. And then in another 3 years, we'll flip it again and get it. Eventually, the lease will be down to a point of where we will probably go out of leasing, purchase the vehicles, and then bring it back in. That's what a lot of municipalities are doing now with their program. But one of the nice things with the Enterprise has through this lease program, you can get out of it anytime. And they send to you a spreadsheet that I wished I had and that on it, and I can send these out to you, that gives you what the equity is in every one of your vehicles. So you know what it's at, what your fleet is at, and so on. Again,
Enterprise, it's Enterprise as in the Enterprise rent-a-car people, and they just also have a...
Yeah, it's Enterprise rent-a-car, but it's through their government.
Yeah, through their government
Right.
program. Okay.
With that. Now, we don't take the maintenance or any of that with it under it.
Or extended warranty or any of that. You don't worry about that because you're not going that far out.
Right.
So what I'd saying to you, you guys are probably very familiar with purchasing your vehicles off of OSG.
Yeah.
You know, we as a municipality, we can buy them cheaper than the public can under OSG, right? If you go on the state contract and buy them that way. Enterprise Lease offers you two different types of leasing. They offer you a net lease or what they call equity lease. A net lease is what the typical public gets. That's where you sign up for a 3-year deal. You own it for 3 years. You turn it in at the end of the 3 years. And equity leases, because you're using the government end of Enterprise, they can get the vehicles a lot cheaper than they would give to the normal public. And you build equity over the course of that lease. But in an equity lease, you can get out of it at any time. If you sign a 4-year equity lease, like the 2 trucks we're trading right now, we're trading in 2 trucks that are only 2 years old. And that's because you can have it set up with Enterprise any way you want. They can annually send you a report. They can quarterly send you a report. That's what Ed's talking about. And in that report, it will tell you what your term of your lease still is and where you stand equity. Like if you sold that truck at that moment, how much equity would you get out of that truck back from Enterprise? So you look at that and you want to find that sweet spot where your equity's at its highest amount.
Is your equity fixed or is it dependent on the secondary market?
Dependent on the secondary market. So it's dependent on the more miles, obviously, you put on it, the older it gets, the less money you get back for that vehicle.
Okay.
So your equity, you find that sweet spot in your equity and you then can trade up to a new one. So I'll give you an example of 2 250s that we're trading, which are 2018s. We pay $564 a month for them. They're both going down to $400. I think we're saving $164 a month on each vehicle and getting 2 new vehicles for $164 less a month. So it takes time as you get started into these.
Yep.
You know, it's not something you're going to turn around in a year, and you really got to watch it.
Yeah,
The other thing,
you've got a track record with them, and they
right? So they approach us and say, "Hey, here's where we think you're at, and you guys might want to think about this." The other thing is with the state contracts, if you really look at what you're buying those, because we do this as well, you can buy a vehicle much cheaper than the public can. And then at any point you can, if you buy it outright, you can sell that vehicle on Auctions International or trade it in to buy another new one. And within 3 years, you're almost getting those vehicles at no cost. I'll give you an example. We kept the two in the water department for 4 years. That was a year longer than I really wanted to keep them, but at the time, we had some board members that weren't really sure about, flipping the vehicles on they were used to keeping vehicles 10, 12 years. We ended up changing the 3 in water, and I got an F-150 XLT extended cab, 2 F-250 4-wheel drives with plows, utility body, water trucks for $40,000. That's what we paid out of pocket to get 3 new trucks, was 40 grand. You have to look at what you pay for them. You don't want to drive these vehicles anymore for 8, 10 years. They just lose all their value. The sweet spot is getting rid of them before 3 years because they still have a factory warranty that you can transfer with them.
Yep.
And then anything from 550 down is where we're looking at the 3-year flip. With the 10-wheelers, because there is some financing programs, some leasing ones out there. We're down to about a 6-year program right now on flipping those. I hope to get that down to a 5-year program here within the next couple of years and flip those out every 5 years and gain some more equity in those. And then instead of down, now we just had one where we had to put a clutch in it. I don't want to do that. I want to stay away from as much maintenance as we can. And again, when you put that with what you spend on maintenance against the equity outlay, you're much further ahead by flipping them out earlier.
Is that also for the 10-wheelers? Is that through Enterprise?
No, they
Okay.
don't go that big. There's people out there, you're going to find that even local banks are now looking at 3.14 now. Now, our bond on a couple of them and that are at like 1.4, 1.5%. But when you look at what your bonding cost is, you band, then bond, and that with it, it about works out to about the same amount of money. And by the time you get done. So we're very, very close to looking at just the financing. I have 5-Star coming in next week to talk to me about it. And there's a couple other companies out there now. And I don't have them sitting in front of me. But I think we're going to look at financing them on a 5-year and then flip them out. I've also I think it's Financial Advisors, they're out of Syracuse, is working on this with me. And I don't have all that details, like I said, sorry, in front of me. On major equipment, we went with Caterpillar on the excavators. And every 2 years, we do their purchase and movement.
So again, what he's talking about, even on your heavy equipment, I don't know if your highway guys have looked at, they offer a program. It's a 3-year program where you buy from them, and then within that 3 years, they buy your equipment back off you and apply it to your new equipment. You're not only are you given the manpower, newer equipment to work with, your maintenance cost goes to zero. I mean, it really does. Other than your oil changes, you might change some tires once in a while on a vehicle if someone's putting a lot of miles on them, but your maintenance cost goes down. So with us, we take our mechanic, and if we don't have nothing to do, he goes out and it's another man that we can put in the field to work out in the field with us on highway projects if we have to.
Does CAT come and service it if any service has to be done? Or is it
Yes.
a requirement?
Not only do they service it, they send you an email saying when it needs an oil change, when it needs anything, when it all goes up in the cloud, and it's a maintenance program that comes with that machine. Doesn't cost you nothing extra, but with that program, it'll tell you from a filter needing to be changed. CAT comes right down and does it.
It will also tell you if somebody's doing something to that piece of equipment they're not supposed to be
Not
doing.
supposed to be doing. That is correct.
Exactly.
Some of the major companies require a training program for certain pieces of equipment, like a big dozer or something. I know CAT requires you take a training course, or the warranty's invalidated. Is that the case of Caterpillar, some of the small municipal stuff?
With our mini excavators and with the large excavator, no, they have not. Now, a dozer, this is another part of this that you really want to look at. What equipment do you really need to own, and what equipment can you rent when you need it?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Our dozer's an old D6 dozer. It needs to be replaced, but can I justify, $140,000 for a piece of equipment I use 2 months out of the year? So I've recommended that for now, rather than replace that, let's budget $20,000. And if I need to
Rent the
lease
baby.
one,
Yep.
I can lease it. And I've already got an agreement with a couple lease companies that I make one phone call, they get that piece of equipment down to me. That also opens you up to another option when you lease your dozer that way. Sometimes you need a D6 dozer, sometimes you need a D3, you need a D8, right?
Yep.
Depending on what you're doing. If you own it, you own one size piece of equipment.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can get the tool for the job. Yep.
You can get the tool that you need. So I looked at those. Those are a couple. Two of the pieces of equipment that stands out to me the most that you use limited time is your large rollers during your paving season, your double drum rollers.
Yep.
And your dozers. How often do you use those? Do you want to pay for a piece of equipment that's just sitting around in your shop over the winter and you're not using it? So you want to look at things like that. I don't know how much, like what type of work you guys are out doing and how much you use that equipment. That would be something you sit down with your highway superintendent and bring it up to them.
Well, time wears things out too, not only use. Just sitting around wears stuff out.
The hoses get dry and crack. Absolutely. I agree. So we've changed that here a little bit as well. Instead of buying those big dollar pieces of equipment that just sit around, yep, we're going to just budget and rent them when we need them.
Yep.
Now, also, this is why I asked the earlier question about shared service and how's your shared service agreement going? Because we just used a dozer that we borrowed from another municipality, and then we let them borrow equipment from us. I'll give you an example. The city of Elmira does a leaf pickup. They don't have enough trucks to haul out. I sent a couple trucks down there to haul leaves, but they have a crack sealing machine that I use every spring. So they send their crack sealing machine up. I put the material in it, and it costs us nothing to use it. We have a dozer. We do a lot with our BOCES program here, where we bring kids on in the summer, and we run a BOCES program where they do drainage and stuff. They have a dozer that they own that they'll rent. Not rent. They'll bring it down whenever it's available and let us use it at no cost. The county has a dozer. There's other municipalities that have a dozer because not everyone's using a dozer always at the same time. So
yeah, this intermunicipal cooperation isn't easy, but we got to make it work.
You're 100% correct. I've been around here too long, I think sometimes, and we went from an elected highway supervisor to an appointed, basically, in that working through. And when we did, because before, and even then, when we had it, was getting them to realize we can't have something for everybody. And that with it, we've all got to share, we've got to work within it. Sales tax, as I said when I started off here, we're losing $750,000 of revenue in our town.
Yeah.
And I refuse to go up more than 2% in taxes. As such, we've made some major cuts, and we hopefully can get through it. But these are two areas started 6 years ago with a major road restructuring program, and it's paying for itself now. Like I say, we spent around 20,000 or a little less this year on road patching. We fix them, and now with the equipment, I think within the next 2 years, the equity base on that will be phenomenal. We'll get into it. But you have to do it under many, many types of things, and sitting down and working with it and saying, well, do we lease? Do we rent? Do we buy? How do we best go forward? And those figures, I work them backwards and forwards as to where we're going to be at and how we're going to get there.
Well, if you're in the secondary auto parts business, that's pretty cutthroat business.
Yeah.
Imagine you learned numbers real well, or you didn't exist.
Your largest obstacle, and they're not an obstacle, is your board members. You got to be able to sit down and explain what you want to do to them. And I'll give you just a quick, like Ed said, everything's done in numbers. People understand numbers. You take that F-250 water truck, that's a $50,000 truck. Okay. You can either front $50,000 up front, or you can lease it for $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. And in 3 years, I'm going to flip it and get a new one, and it cost me $18,000 versus $50,000. I mean, those are numbers that people understand.
Yeah.
But
You're telling a story with numbers instead of words.
right,
exactly.
you're telling it when you approach your board, have your facts, have your numbers in hand, because that's what they understand. Because the public always says, and Ed has been asked this question by the public, why are you driving XLT trucks? You only ever drove XLs. I'll explain to you why. The resale value of that XLT truck far exceeds what you paid for up front on the front end.
Yep.
When we now put our trucks on Auctions International. We started, they were yellow trucks. We couldn't sell a yellow truck to save our life.
Save your soul, yeah.
The public didn't want them. Not only were we paying $1,500 extra to have them painted yellow, because they only run 2 batches a year, nobody wanted them. We put the white XLTs on, we sell them within 2 weeks, they're gone for what we wanted for them. So we've changed our truck colors to white. That's another thing those are everything you want to think about. Do you want, yellow? Do you want white? Do you want blue? Do you want silver? Those are white, blue, silvers. Those are trucks that sell to the public when you want to get rid of them. Because you can buy them on OGS, drive them for 2 years, sell them to the public for what you paid for them. I'm going to tell you that right now. Not only are we doing this, the town of Irwin's doing it. Rita McCarthy in Irwin. Her water guys, they flip their trucks every 2 years. And they're at the point now where they're not paying out of pocket. They might budget $30,000 for a truck, but when they sell it, they put that money right back into the revenue. They're not even paying for trucks anymore. But they've been doing this. They're on probably their 8th or 9th year of doing this.
Yeah. Well, they throw it back into their reserve account, which we do ourselves.
Yep. It's just getting there is the hard part.
Yeah, that's good. And I will say, Bobby does that for the pickups, for the service pickups that they use. So that does seem to be very effective.
The one that we have not put into the lease program is our mechanics vehicle. And that's because it's got a compressor and everything else on it. And that's one down the line we're just going to have to look at because of the equipment that we carry on that.
Well, that's kind of a special setup too, a work truck like that.
Yes.
It is. That's also a truck that doesn't get a lot of miles put on it. So if you keep that truck for 8-9 years, you might sell it with 40,000 miles on it in 8 or 9 years. You know what I'm saying? So
if these guys would put less salt on the roads, they'd last even longer.
Hey, I like that. What was the first thing I went after Dr. Schott about was salt.
That's something that we've approached is less salt. Let's really be, we do live in upstate New York. People have been trained how to drive in wintry conditions. Roads do not have to be black. Roads just need to be safe. And just dumping salt on them, I can tell you last year, our budget for salt was $95,000. And I don't think we used 45,000 in salt last year. But it was a milder winter, but that's just, we're looking at everything. We're looking at overtime. Think about your highway overtime right now, you guys. Here's another thing to think about. I don't know, our schools are shut down. They're 100% virtual. We used to bring our guys in at 3:30 so we could have the hills and stuff clear for the school buses. I don't have school buses no more. I don't bring them in before 5 o'clock now.
Yeah.
I mean, every bit of that is money that it's little chunks, but those little chunks add up to big savings in the end.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll take this opportunity. I sent a little chat out. So Laura Shawley from Danby has joined us. Hi, Laura. And
hi, how you doing, guys?
Good.
So, and I think some of you know Laura, and we had a conversation with Laura a couple weeks ago about their highway equipment purchasing practices, and very many parallels between what you guys are telling us today. So
yes, and like you said, what our challenge was when Carl and I got started here. Carl's the current highway superintendent. He's been here now for 13 years. And we came in here and what we had was all old equipment, very, very old. So the maintenance costs were astronomical. And as you know, as you guys have been talking about it just now, when you have that much maintenance cost, you're just putting good money into bad product because it's not worth anything, and that's where you're at. So the way we approached it here is similar to what you're talking about, and it did take a while, but there was one year when the interest rates were way low, were very, very low. So instead of us just going into a lease purchase agreement on one, we bought three.
Right.
So we flipped out three. So our goal has been to get as new as we can, get our fleet as up to date as possible. And then that's what we're aiming for, is exactly the program that you guys are talking about right now, of being able to find, as you called it, the sweet spot of what they're worth. Now we have also, for one of our pieces of equipment, have been on what was called a loader program, which is what you were talking about, like with your excavators, etc., and where we would get a new loader every year. So we paid outright for a loader, and then and what that does is, as you're talking about that, we don't have to change those hydraulic fluids every year, which, as you know, is very expensive to do. And that's the maintenance you have. So we give a new loader every year. It's got brand new tires on it.
Loader tires?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever bought loader tires? They're
very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. So we started with that because we're a small municipality, the town of Danby. We're very small. So we had to get there, like what you guys are talking about. We kind of came to those conclusions just by, looking in every direction that we could to get this fleet up to date, and then figure out, okay, it's more than just getting it up to date. What are you going to do from that point forward? Now, from that point forward, if you're not on this, you're going to run into the same situation 10 years from now. You're going to be back to square one. So this is refreshing to hear you guys talk about what you guys have been doing throughout the years, because that's basically where we're at here. We're almost there, with having everything is new and up to date. But when you come into a place and you're in a smaller municipality and everything's so old, it's going to take you a while to get there. But we have managed to do that. Now this year, we've started using Auctions International as well. We've had very, very good luck with Auctions International. And so now with our loader program, because of COVID, because as you were saying, what we discovered was this: we're not going to get a new loader this year. And that's because the trade-in value isn't there, because due to COVID, the outside market isn't buying as much anymore. So instead of us paying $10,000 up, updated manufacturing price, that manufacturing price is going to be 30, because our equipment's not worth as much for the next year when those private businesses are not purchasing anymore. So that's going to go up. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw our loader, who it's only 1 year old, up on Auctions International, see what we can get for it. We will probably get about the same amount that we actually, that we would have paid for it. And then we're going out price shopping. We'll flip that right into a new loader and we'll be on our way. We'll go for the year and then we'll figure out what comes up in the next year. And when we look at our crystal ball and maybe find a year where we don't have to use a crystal ball anymore, and then we'll start back on our loader program again, year after year after year.
So Lori, you're right.
Ed, how do you handle it if you get a lemon?
I'm sorry?
I mean, we all know there's always lemons.
Yes.
Those are at the grocery store.
Haven't had that happen yet.
We've
But
got
Lori,
an international will sell you. Then you can have one.
Lori, you're right. Auctions International, you can always use that. It costs us as a municipality nothing to put that vehicle up on Auctions International. You can use that when the bidding's done. If it doesn't bring what you want, you just decline it. But that gives you a base number of what that piece of equipment's worth. Now, also with
We're going to set it up there with a reserve. We know exactly what we have to get. We're going to use a reserve and see what these companies will bid on it. These are great. This is win-win situation. These private companies are getting a really good piece of equipment and they're saving money too. Like you say, I didn't think of the color, like for the trucks.
Yeah.
The color makes a big difference, especially if you get a landscapers. Let's take example, you're selling your 550 that's got a salt spreader on it and a front plow. That's the typical truck that a landscaper uses all day long, is a 550 with a portable salt spreader on the back and a front plow. If that truck is white, you're going to get more people bidding on it than if that truck is school bus yellow.
Interesting. That I'm so glad I tuned in just to hear that part. We weren't thinking about that because we haven't totally gotten there, but we're approaching. So this has been just thinking about that. That could make a huge difference.
The other thing that you need to think about with your vehicles is this. Yes, we can buy on the state contract, but we have a large dealership around here. Simmons Rockwell's the name of, you probably heard of.
Never heard of them before. Never heard of them.
Well, they have a fleet maintenance program as well. So what I typically will do before I buy a truck is I'll figure out what I can buy it on a state contract for. I go to their fleet maintenance manager and I say, look, I'm shopping for a new, 2021 F-250. I can buy this truck on the state contract for this amount of money. Can you match it or beat it? The last two I've done, they've beat the state contract by $500 a piece.
They must just love it when you walk in the shop.
No, they don't like me.
We went to them one year for a pickup as well, and they beat the state contract price.
They'll beat
Not
it.
by a lot, but they did.
Right now, by a lot.
So I have a.
We've used Van Bordeaux in Rochester to go against other people, and it's amazing. Now, what's fun is we contacted on the one McGuire's over in Ithaca because they have the Chevy or GMC one. They wouldn't even bid. They said, we can't match what Fords are.
And that's another thing. I've run into highway superintendents. They say, oh, I won't drive, I don't put nothing in my fleet but a Chevy because they're a Chevy. I just want a vehicle that gets the job done, whether it's a Chevy or a Ford. And typically I have found, and I think Ed has as well, Chevy can't beat Ford on the pricing with the state contracts and stuff. But there's a lot to be said for what you're doing, Lori. I think you're on the right path.
Oh, thank you. This has been so helpful because we really didn't have anywhere to go, to find out information, really. I mean, you can try to call different and try to get all these different ideas. So we just sort of sat down and tried to figure this out as we went along. And it's nice and it's very refreshing to us to see you guys who've been doing this for a while. I think we are on the right path now, and we might need to call you for some pointers here and there, so we can really get where we want to be.
Sure. One of the things, and I think when I sat down and looked at the overall, Dan McInerney, that was our mechanic, he's now our highway supervisor, and that I sat with him and said, how much downtime? Coming back and forth. And I found out from him, he was running out with a pickup truck to fix equipment and coming back having to get more equipment. He may make 7 or 8 trips back to get different things. I said, well, why? So we sat and we looked at it. Within 6 months, we had a service truck here
Mhm.
and equipped it. And that really helped with that. But also by sitting down and working with the highway group and that overall and saying how much downtime, how much do we need out there? We actually added, I think, one more pickup to our fleet that we needed. We were running 10-wheelers out for stuff that we could run an extended cab or a 4-door cab out with a crew. And we were running like 3 10-wheelers out there. Well, not anymore. We run
Yeah.
out with
Once.
the pickup truck and not put the added wear and tear on the 10-wheelers.
No, we did.
What do they
here-
call it? Opportunity costs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we did here is, being a smaller municipality, we did not have an in-house mechanic. We didn't have a mechanic on staff. So we started looking at all of these different things. Okay, so if we bring, and nothing against Caskies or any other outfit out there, okay? If we bring a truck, say, to Caskies, and we say, okay, we have a problem with the brakes. That's all they're gonna look at is the brakes. They're
Yep.
not gonna look at anything else while they're under there to do preventive maintenance on this, that, or some other thing. So we started looking at that, and then we decided we need to get an in-house mechanic in here. So we created a position, and now we're getting so much more, just more bang for our buck. I mean, for what we're paying, the preventive maintenance on these vehicles, it is
Yep.
so worth it to have that mechanic here. Plus, we don't have downtime with trucks anymore, where we're, having to, transport them over there all the time, then get them back, having the downtime. And then what we did is we ran into the same problem if something breaks down on the road. So what we did is our fire department from time to time will sell one of their like utility trucks, or they want to trade it in, or they need to have another one. So what they do is, as being part of our municipality, we've purchased several of the fire department's vehicles, and we turned that into a utility truck that you're talking about right now, so that when our mechanic has to go out on the road, he's got that loaded up, he's got all his tools, he's got everything he needs. He can
Ready to
anticipate
go.
what parts he's going to need when he gets out there, so that it just makes it. And then you know how that is in the middle of the night, and you got something down. You want to be able to have your mechanic be ready and be out there do it. So we got those trucks very, very inexpensively from our fire department, and that's because there's many times we do things for them too, and big storms, and maybe helping them out with their plowing, and they help us out.
Yep.
You're talking shared services. We do that with our fire departments as well. And that worked out really well for us. And having our own in-house mechanic as a small municipality, it just made all the difference. It really did.
Yeah.
Uh,
Group, I've got to leave the meeting. This has been very helpful, Ed, and you both. I can't remember the name of your
Sean.
person across the table from you.
Sean Crater.
Sean
Sean?
Crater.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, it's been very helpful. I've got to leave, but thank you for taking the time. And
Wow, you're more than welcome.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
You know,
Bob and Mark can fill me in on the rest of the meeting.
thanks.
Great.
Take care.
Mark, one of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up, I've said as chairman of the Cornell Road School program, I'm on the executive committee, and Mr. Orr nominated me to be chairman this year and next year. David's quite persuasive. But anyway,
What is that committee, Ed?
Pardon?
What is that committee that you said you were on?
Cornell Road School.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And one of the things that I brought up this year for our meeting here a few weeks ago was to give more training and to the municipalities and so on, and different ideas like you've had and we've had about how to finance things better, how to look at them, how do we make the changes that we need to do. And they've gotten very open. Talking to Sean with the road school program that normally would be held at Cornell will not be held at Cornell. It'll be virtual this year. But repetition on some of the things at the road school. People are saying, with the virtual programs, we can have breakout rooms and so on. And what I've suggested to them is to have some advanced courses with some of us to talk about how do you do this? How do you flip equipment? How do you look at that financially and so on? And help our highway people. What is bonding? What is banding? A lot of them don't understand the financial parts of some of this, and I think they need a greater understanding. The executive committee was very, very much for that, but I was just wondering how you people felt. It's something that I'm going to push for. I'm also going to push for it with AOT.
Great. I think that's a great idea. I've said that to Laura that, I mean, this should be or also Association of Towns having something, a training and information like this for municipal officials. And having something through Cornell Local Roads would be great for town board members to attend to learn about these different options and opportunities. So I think that's a great idea, Ed. I just can't say enough. I think it'd be great. So.
I agree with you, Mark. And not only that, it would have been great to have something like that when we got started here 13 years ago. And from that time, people would, the smaller municipalities around would say, what has happened? Wait a minute, Danby just bought 3 trucks. Word gets out there. Danby has done this. So we were getting all kinds of telephone calls and asking us to come out. So I've gone out to several municipalities, smaller municipalities, and talked about this already. And from what we can see, the need is just so great out there, especially amongst the smaller municipalities where our resources are limited. You have highway superintendent. Now I'm the accountant for the town. So I'm the assistant to the supervisor and the accountant for the town. And I'm also the assistant in the highway department with all the, with the financial stuff and just doing all of those kinds of things. But a lot of highway superintendents, they don't have access to this kind of stuff.
I was just going to touch on that. I've been doing it for 20 years now, 22 years. And when I started, I knew nothing about how the town worked financially and stuff. And I can tell you from going to local roads, 90% of your highway superintendents, they can tell you that they need a truck, but they don't know how to get the funding.
They have no idea. They have no idea. Or training to think, that training, I mean, they're all very, very sharp, but that training to think about or to even know what's available out there.
Right.
So if they knew what was available out there, their minds would be going just like you guys. Wait a minute. This truck, maybe we don't need that all through the year. Maybe we could do this, but if they don't have that education, that knowledge that where they're getting these ideas, it's not an intuitive thing for them. Right. And so I think that would be fantastic to have something like that. And I think it would be fantastic to have it throughout the year at different times, more than just at that school, because, people come in and out and of these jobs and everything. And then so to have it and to really be, and there's so many different aspects of that subject that you could hit on. Yeah. You just take different, segments, all the time with it. And boy, it would be so helpful, I believe, to highway superintendents. I really do.
Yeah.
Talked to Chris Anderson at AOT, and I'm not a very happy person. And I sent a very direct letter to Jerry that I said, did you all go into a cave and hide during this pandemic? Because I haven't heard anything. But yet I sat on NICOM, several of their webinars, because the Village of Horseheads and us get along and we share a lot of things. And so I sat on their webinars and I said, Jerry, isn't it time that you come out and get us to share? One of the things that we did set up here in the county is the 5 largest municipalities, and we allow anybody into it. And I host a Zoom meeting every 2 weeks. And we talk about different problems and different things and ideas and so on in that. And I think we all need to share with each other. I'm not original. I'm going to go out and grab somebody. I came from marketing sales. If somebody had a great idea out there, I'm willing to go out and rob it and utilize it. You know, and
you're willing to share it, your experience, both of you. That's great.
Well, you know, you gotta, and again, I go back to, you have to, your board and your town supervisors, they want to know money. They don't care what you need. They want to know, how are we funding that? Ed, I'm fortunate because Ed, if I explain it to Ed and I can say, hey, look, we can, like when with these two new trucks, I said, Ed, we can knock off $165 a month per truck. That's a savings to the town of $3,900 a year. I know it's only $3,900, but it's still $3,900. What board member is going to say no to that?
Right.
Right.
give you one last thing that we did here that Sean brought about. I kept seeing this dump truck out and back, and it came up on a call that we have a surplus dump truck out and back that we use when we need it. Why? So Sean came up with this idea that he had used at the city about the loader, getting a plow for the loader. Go ahead, because you know more about it.
And you guys may already do it. When I was I came from the city of Elmira, and we plow a lot of the streets down there with loaders because they can cut corners really quick and easy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just as fast plowing with as a truck. They had a surplus truck out here that they kept as an emergency vehicle in case one broke down, because as I told you, we were spending a lot of money on maintenance, so they were constantly having a truck break down, so you had this extra vehicle that you could keep things going with. I said, well, we don't need that extra vehicle no more. We have all new trucks. I mean, we have pretty new trucks that don't break down very much. But our highway superintendent, he said, but Sean, what happens in the middle of this? I said, well, look, we got two loaders, but we don't have no plows for them. So we could pull the loaders, buy plows for the loaders, and then if something breaks down, we can move trucks out on the hills, because I'm not going to send the loaders out on the hills, but I can put the loaders in the hamlet areas and in the developments. So we're trying some new innovative things. And the guys haven't, you know, this is their first winter. They haven't got the plow with a loader yet. But I can tell you, I've plowed with both. And when you plow with a loader, you'll never plow with a pickup. You got a highway superintendent on. I'd ask him if he's ever plowed with a loader before.
Yeah, it's much better than the pickup.
Well,
Much better.
Yeah.
Carl's right. Yeah, and Carl's right here listening too. Yeah, he just shook his head yes.
thumbs up for the loader.
So, you know, the biggest thing, you guys, is listen to your highway superintendents. I can't say that enough. They really know what they're talking about. They're the ones out there that are doing the ditching. They're the ones doing the paving. They're the ones doing the hauling, you know, organizing this hauling and getting it done.
They're the ones in the reality of the situation.
100%. And there's nothing worse than you got a job to get done and you don't have the right tool to get it done. It makes the job very frustrating. But if you can give them the right tool, whether that's through leasing it, through renting it, or through owning it, it makes your highway superintendents, and it makes the guys want to come to work. I'm going to tell you. And I think the highway guy would agree with that.
Yeah. And just to this is kind of stating the obvious, but it seems to me the critical thing about this whole either, you know, the leasing or installment payment plan is that you have a planned, you know, because you are paying interest payments for that, but the payoff is that you sell the equipment back after a planned period of time.
Correct.
And so it seems like that's essential to the whole thing. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And that's what we did.
Put those back. And one of the things came about with the pickup trucks going from 4 to 3. I had to have a conversation. The owner of Simpson Rockwell, Dick Rockwell, and I are very, very good friends. And Brian Liddy that works there, we were having a conversation one day down there. And I said, well, what about us getting out? Because they grab our vehicles just as fast as they can get them. And their wholesale person that buys from Enterprise and all these other companies came in, and he said, do not let them go more than 3 years and keep them in. That 4th year, you're going to lose about 15 to 18% in equity. So that really kind of brought it back in. And then when I was talking to Sean and we started, of course, that got me to the point where, okay, get the pencil out. Let's start looking at it on a spreadsheet. And it did point it out.
They sell much easier on Auctions International after, you know, when you're just starting your third year, because you're selling them with still a year left on the factory warranty.
Yeah.
You know, versus selling it in its fourth year, which is now under no warranty.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other thing, too, that happens with these when you start flipping them, we've got, I don't know, we've got a 10-wheeler right now that we have at Auction International.
Yeah.
And I think we've got 5 or 6 municipalities that have come up and looked at it. They know we maintain vehicles and that they get used to you being on there. They know what kind of equipment you have. You're not going to sell them a piece of junk. So that in itself, you're getting a reputation with these people. And I think that's one from Chittenango was talking about it, one that I happened to be at a meeting with. And they flip theirs, I think, every 5 years. And he said, once you get that reputation, he said,
They line up to buy them from you.
he said, I don't even go to Auction International anymore. I've got them coming to me.
They're lined up waiting.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Mhm.
All right. Well, it's just about 11 o'clock now, and I want to say how much I really appreciate you, Ed and Sean, joining us today, and everybody for attending and joining the conversation. And I guess before we go, I mean, I guess does anybody have any other questions or comments?
I got one. What about how much are you paying per year in your, you know, what your lease payments, your installment payments? Just a ballpark number. You know, here we just have a new equipment account.
He's got our 2021 budget right in front of him. So he's going to pull that for you right now. I can't remember off the top of my head because we have many different ones.
That's Water District. Here's Highway.
They'll be leased down there.
There is only one that will be out of Highway. That with it. Do you remember what the account number is on it? I don't know that sheet for me.
5110 1620. So basically, I can tell you, we're leasing them cheaper than the public can lease them, you know, out in the public.
Mhm.
You know, 3/4 tons we're leasing for under $400 a month right now. They started out at $560 a month. I don't have no half tons anymore. I got rid of the last one on this last lease.
Now, go ahead. Bobby, are you talking about the installment purchases, like with the larger equipment?
Yeah, with
And I used a term called lease purchase agreement on those. That's really just another name for an installment purchase. So when we talk about what we've done here in Danby, instead of going out for bonding, which requires, as you said, all those extra bonding charges, we get into, with our bigger equipment, you know, our 10-wheelers, et cetera, what's called a lease purchase agreement. So I didn't want to get that confused in there in the mix of what I meant by lease for those big ones. They're really like an installment purchase. You're looking for about how much in this installment?
yeah, what you would normally spend in a year payment
For all the equipment, not just
like an across the board number. You know, here we work off a new equipment account.
All the equipment in Highway this year will be $266,277. And that's with the leases, that's with the bonding on big trucks or financing and so on, will be the total capital outlay this year. Now, that keeps dwindling. Now, if you go back to what I said originally, we were spending almost $400,000 a year in maintenance. That maintenance is down to $80,000 now. Every year, this capital outlay drops by about 15% to 20% with that. Now, a little bit of that is fictitious because when we flip equipment, we automatically put what we get extra with it back into our reserve account. So, and I can't find it right now. Wish Shawnee was here, she could flip it up with me. I think we've got about 80-some thousand in our capital reserve account. So it kind of is a fictitious figure.
You could take that 80 off that 260, so you're looking at 180,000 a year, and that's for
Sure.
the 6 10-wheelers, the 6-wheeler, what I say, three 1-tons and 2 3/4-ton trucks. That's what we have right now on that.
Question, ma'am, who do you lease or you're financing your 10-wheelers through?
We do it right through our bank and through our, I'm trying to remember the name of that institution that we use through our bank. I'll find that. I'll send it out.
Are you getting?
Oh, we got the first time we did it, we got a rate of about 2.3% when we bought our 3 trucks at one time, about 2.3. Last time we were after we got done with that lease, of course, being a smaller municipality, we needed to get done with one before we got into another. We bought 2 immediately in that next year. And we got, I think it was like a 3.1%.
Yeah, 3.1 seems to be about where it's at right now.
Yeah, about a 3.1 the last time when we bought 2 at one time.
Okay. Because I'm looking at 5 Star and 2 other. Actually, I'm looking at a bank down south called BBT. They're very interested.
I've heard of that.
And they're into this large. They're going to be merging with SunTrust very shortly.
Key Government Finance. There's a company called Key Government Finance. I'll send you the information.
Would you?
Sure will.
Please, thank you. I'm always looking for more information.
Yeah, us too. We want to.
Me too.
We definitely, Key Government Finance, and it was really, we had very good luck with them, and we did our second lease through them as well. But of course, we're going around and checking. But we went around and got a lot of interest rates, at the time. I think I checked like 5. I do a minimum of 5. And we got the best rate through Key Government Finance both times.
Now, there's another one that we've been, and he's been after me, is Greene County.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've been after us, and I've got to get with him and find out. But yeah, lease purchase base finance on it. But like you say, about 3.1 is about the cheapest that I can find right now.
Yeah, we were about 3.1 last time. So that hasn't gone up a lot in the last 2 years. But that's been, it's all been pretty, but still, if you think about years ago, what the interest rates would have been. So when those rates dropped like that and they stayed pretty constant, that was the time we acted and said, we're not just going to, as a small municipality with this old equipment, we're not just going to buy 1. We're going to buy 3 right now, because then we had some older equipment. We flipped that on Auctions International. That more than took up the amount of the interest that, we made, of course, even more on that than we did, for the interest that we would pay on these. So getting it started for us, that's kind of the method we used.
And your key is watch that interest rate. We got 3 ordered right now because I do believe the interest rates are going to jump as soon as this presidential switches house and stuff.
You're right. I believe that as well.
If you're looking at buying new trucks, your large truck, I don't know who you guys are using. They'll let you sign an agreement to purchase at right now's rate. If you do that now, you might not be able to purchase it till March or April or May, but they're looking, because they're getting those orders in now and they're locking that rate now. That's another thing to think about, because I do believe interest rates are going to jump over the next 6 months.
In Town of Caroline, that's something to think about, is you guys are starting your program, really.
Yeah,
those other 2 pieces of equipment that you just bought, you might want to think about not doing that capital outlay, that cash outlay to pay for those 2. Instead, get into one of these installment purchases with the lock in at that lower interest rate that Sean's just talking about,
Right.
and then go out and get your loader. take that cash and get that load. I know you said you needed a new loader. Instead, take that cash, get that new loader up there. What we did is we separated our equipment out as what we called priority equipment and non-priority equipment.
Non-priority. What one's a toy? I tell them, what's our toy and what's
So you guys are using some similar things. Yeah. The
No.
priority equipment, you know, your loader is one of your main, and especially a smaller municipality, we usually only have one. Man, that's key. That thing goes down in the middle of the night when you're in a big storm. You got big trouble, you know. And so we do that, and maybe that would be a good time for you to start your loader, like a loader program, to keep swapping that out. Just what you're going to save alone just on the yearly maintenance of switching out all those hydraulic fluids and going through all of that. And then you got something there with a new warranty on it every year. If something happens to your motor, if something happens to your, you know, you got now brand new tires on that thing, you know. For a smaller municipality, that might be something to think about. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think we should
Pay cash out on those two that you just bought.
carefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should think carefully about you know,
This is
how
an
we should
opportunity
finance
to get
those.
really started. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Sean, that's a great idea to lock in at that rate.
our,
I'm gonna check
our
into that.
biggest hurdle here is just the age of our 10-wheelers. And when I say that, we're still running a frontline 10-wheeler that's a 1997 Ford Louisville.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they don't go up much from there. I mean, we have two Sterlings. One's a 99, one's a 2000. I do have an international single axle that's a 2004. And our newest truck is a 2010 international with that beautiful Max Force engine in it. Our first repair bill on that was shy of 50,000. And it has been a lemon, you know, since we've owned it. And I sat down and looked at it, and really when it came down to it, our business, you know, is to plow snow.
Wow.
If we don't get, you know, a certain section of ditching done, you know, that day, it's not the end of the world. Nobody's going to be right on the phone. But if we don't plow that snow off the road, the phone is ringing off the hook here. So, you know, my plan going forward is to get these trucks newer. And the hard part is we did order 2 new trucks, which will make a huge difference. But as you guys know, when you order these trucks, you don't see them for a year.
Hey, you don't see them for a long time.
You know, so going forward, it's hard getting that big cash amount, you know, to pay cash for these trucks. And it's just a big piggy bank. You know, we got to save in this piggy bank until we get enough, you know. And meanwhile, the sad part is all 5 of these trucks, there isn't one of them that has AC in it. So you know how that is on a day where you're paving. These guys are glued right to the seat.
Have you looked on Auctions International at all? Have you been on that site at all to look at some of the vehicles that are
Yeah.
on there?
Yeah, so we've looked on there, and the biggest thing I keep thinking is, and I've tried to find some newer stuff, just so I can get out of this 97 era,
Right.
you know. And we've worked with Tracy Road Equipment, and we did purchase 2 new Western Stars, you know, and we spec'd them for what we needed, upgraded a little bit, but not a whole lot. And Tracy did offer, you know, if we were looking to get something lined up for a 22 delivery, they would actually lock us into our current price that we just purchased for. So now it's just trying to talk the board and Mark into, you know, whether we come up with a lease, you know, installment payment, however we do it, you know, but get this equipment here for these guys so we can keep these roads plowed. And we're spending, you know, shy of 60,000 plus in repairs, you know, just alone on this older stuff. And a lot of my overtime lately has been mechanical issues. So, you know, I got guys staying late to fix trucks, you know, for tomorrow morning. So that just seems to be the big hurdle is this repair issue.
Back in that time, so when you go in front of your board, you say, look, here's what we spent in overtime just doing maintenance on to keep these trucks moving.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm telling you, your biggest thing is your board only cares about numbers. They don't care about equipment. They don't care. Unfortunately, they don't care about us. They care about numbers.
Well, that, yeah, I'll just say that the board is and I am, we definitely recognize what Bob's talking about with the aged equipment. And so over the last 5 years, we bought a great all with cash, and we have these, we spent about $1 million on, or committed $1 million. But I think this what we've been talking about today, as Laura pointed out, that we're down to rock bottom on our fund balance now. And so we've committed a lot of money because the highway equipment is a high priority to us. So now we've got to figure out, how are we going to move forward what's the plan forward that'll keep us under the tax cap and allow us to meet the highway department's needs for taking care of our roads. So I agree with you. I think, so I'm excited. I'm excited by what you're telling us about. So I think it
Okay.
gives us some ways to get the job done. So.
Well, I'm glad it's been helpful. I've picked up information today. It's been helpful to us.
Great.
Learn over these things.
You guys.
Good. Okay. So thanks again so much. And let's stay connected and share the information we've talked about. And I'd be very interested to hear what might develop with Cornell Local Roads or Association of Towns for doing some trainings on this. So.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Like I say, I have a meeting, virtual meeting with Chris next week, and also with David Orr, and I know they're very interested in this part of it also. I made a mention, I sat on OSC's small municipality board back a few years ago, and then they got rid of it. And, one of the things I brought up, our planning board, our zoning appeals board, and all of them have to have training. But yet you can sit as a town supervisor or on the town council and not have any kind of basic training requirement. And I think it's a shame. I do think, I try to encourage my board to ride on a truck. Go out there and ride on a 10-wheeler. See what it's like with them out in a storm and on training to understand some of these things. In that with it and challenge them with it. And I've got a great board. I'm very, very fortunate with the group that I have.
Here.
But there again, when they first come on, it's a big learning curve. And I'm learning every day.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Thank you, everybody.
We did that too, Ed. The highway superintendent here, they got the supervisor out in the truck early morning in the dark on the back roads so that they could see exactly what was going on out there. That and a couple of the different board members got them in the trucks. They were more than willing to do it, but it was one little trip like that's an education to them.
I wiped out 3 mailboxes the first time I rode.
You what?
They made me be the wingman, and I wiped out 3 mailboxes. They made sure those people knew that I did it. So, but experience, and I try to meet with the highway guys. Sean meets with them constantly. We try to keep them informed what's going on in the municipality, what financially we're looking at, and so on, and to make sure they're part of the group. They're all part of the team. They may be CSEA members, but they're no different than anybody in here. We treat everybody the same.
That's great.
Cool. Again,
all right. Well, Ed, Sean, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it, and let's talk again soon, huh?
And thanks for organizing it, Mark.
Sure.
Thanks for getting us all together. It was great.
You're very welcome, and it's been really helpful. So thanks a lot, everybody, for coming. So
thanks. I'm sorry I was so rude and tuned in late.
Oh no, I'm glad you made it, Laura.
I had another place I had to be this morning, but I managed to at least get in there.
Thank goodness for Zoom, huh?
Yeah, love it. Okay, take care, you guys.
Okay, Take care, everybody. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.